The late afternoon sun casts long shadows across the bustling marketplace of Baghdad, where you've spent most of your day. Golden light filters through the colorful fabric awnings stretched overhead, creating a patchwork of warmth and shade on the stone pavement below. The air carries a symphony of scents, cardamom and cinnamon from the spice merchants, the sweet perfume of rose water being sprinkled to settle the dust, the earthy aroma of leather goods, and the mouth-watering fragrance of lamb being slowly roasted over open flames. You move through the crowd with practiced ease, your body instinctively navigating the narrow spaces between stalls and shoppers. The constant murmur of haggling voices creates a familiar backdrop to your thoughts as you consider the journey ahead. Tomorrow, you will join a merchant expedition leaving for Balsora, where you and your new business partner Sinbad will board a trading vessel bound for the distant East Indies. The weight of the coin purse at your belt, considerably lighter after today's purchases of supplies, reminds you of the risk and potential reward of this venture. As the market begins to quiet for the evening, you make your way toward the modest inn where you've taken lodging. The streets of Baghdad transition from the frenetic energy of commerce to the more subdued rhythm of the evening. Lamps are being lit in windows, casting warm, yellow rectangles of light onto the cobblestones. The call to evening prayer echoes from a nearby minaret, its melodious tones washing over the city like a gentle wave. Your room at the inn is small but comfortable, with a narrow window overlooking a courtyard where a small fountain bubbles soothingly. You carefully arrange your newly acquired possessions: sturdy clothing suitable for sea travel, a small knife with a bone handle, a leather-bound journal for recording your observations, and various other necessities. Each item is placed with deliberate care into a travel chest that smells faintly of cedar. Sleep comes fitfully that night, your mind too occupied with thoughts of the journey ahead. You've never ventured beyond the familiar territories surrounding Baghdad, and the prospect fills you with equal measures of excitement and apprehension. When you do drift into dreams, they are filled with endless horizons of blue water and strange lands waiting to be discovered. Morning arrives with the first call to prayer, the muezzin's voice drawing you gently from slumber. The air is cool and fresh, carrying the promise of heat later in the day. After a simple breakfast of flatbread, honey, and strong tea, you shoulder your travel chest and make your way to the agreed meeting point near the eastern gate of the city. Sinbad is already waiting when you arrive, his tall figure easy to spot among the gathering merchants. Though you've only recently formed your partnership, there's something about his confident bearing and thoughtful eyes that inspired your trust from the beginning. He greets you with a warm smile that crinkles the corners of his eyes, clasping your shoulder in a gesture that feels both friendly and reassuring. The caravan to Balsora is preparing to depart, he tells you, his voice carrying the measured cadence of a natural storyteller. Our journey begins in earnest now, my friend. The caravan assembles with practiced efficiency, merchants with their goods loaded on camels and mules, guards with curved swords hanging at their sides, servants and assistants managing the countless details of the journey. You find yourself assigned to a camel with a surprisingly comfortable saddle, the beast regarding you with what seems like resigned tolerance as you awkwardly mount. As the caravan begins its slow procession through the city gates, You cast one last glance back at the familiar spires and domes of Baghdad. The morning sun gilds the city in radiant light as if offering a golden farewell. A curious mixture of emotion settles in your chest, a twinge of melancholy at leaving home, overshadowed by the thrill of adventure unfurling before you. The journey to Balsora takes several days, following well-established trade routes that wind through landscapes both barren and beautiful. By day, you travel under the vast blue dome of the sky, the horizon stretching endlessly in all directions. The rhythm of the camel's gait becomes a meditation of sorts, its steady rocking motion lulling you into contemplative silence for long stretches. At night, the caravan forms a circle and fires are lit against the desert chill. Under a canopy of stars more numerous than you could ever count, Sinbad shares stories of previous journeys, his words painting vivid pictures that only heighten your anticipation. Balsora appears first as a smudge on the horizon, gradually resolving into the distinct shapes of buildings and harbor structures as you draw nearer. The port city bustles with an energy different from Baghdad. Here everything revolves around the sea. The salt-laden air fills your lungs, a new sensation that feels somehow both foreign and welcoming. Ships of various sizes crowd the harbor, their masts creating a forest of vertical lines against the sky, sails furled or billowing depending on their state of readiness. You and Sinbad secure lodgings near the harbor, a modest but clean establishment frequented by merchants. The next several days pass in a flurry of activity as you help acquire trade goods. Fine fabrics from Baghdad, intricately worked brass items, leather goods, and other merchandise that Sinbad assures you will fetch excellent prices in distant markets. Each evening, exhausted but satisfied with the day's progress, you fall asleep to the distant sounds of the harbor, the creaking of ships, the calls of night watchmen, the gentle lapping of waves against stone. Finally, the day of departure arrives. Dawn breaks clear and promising as you make your way to the harbor where your ship awaits. The vessel is larger than you expected, a sturdy trading ship with a broad beam and two masts supporting large triangular sails. Workers scurry about like ants, loading the last of the cargo under the watchful eye of the captain, a weathered man with skin tanned to leather by decades under the sun. Boarding the ship feels momentous, a physical crossing of the threshold between your old life and whatever awaits. The wooden planks beneath your feet shift subtly with the movement of the water, a sensation that takes immediate concentration to navigate without stumbling. You find the small space allocated for your personal belongings, a narrow berth in a shared area with other merchants, including Sinbad, whose adjacent placement offers some comfort in these unfamiliar surroundings. As final preparations are made, you stand at the rail, watching the controlled chaos of the harbor. The captain shouts orders in a voice that carries effortlessly across the deck. Sailors respond with practiced efficiency, their movements displaying the casual expertise of those who have performed the same tasks countless times. Ropes are untied, sails unfurled to catch the morning breeze, and slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the ship begins to move away from the dock. The sensation of leaving land is subtle but profound. The harbor gradually recedes, the buildings of Balsora becoming smaller until they are merely a line on the horizon, and then nothing at all. Around you stretches the vast expanse of the Persian Gulf, its waters a deep blue that seems to hold infinite depth. The wind fills the sails with a sound like distant thunder, and the vessel cuts through the waves with a rhythmic motion that will become the constant backdrop to your existence in the days ahead. Your first day at sea passes in a haze of adjustment. The constant movement of the ship challenges your balance and turns your stomach in unexpected ways. Sinbad, noticing your discomfort, offers a remedy, a small piece of ginger to chew and advice to keep your gaze fixed on the horizon rather than the shifting deck. By evening, you find your sea legs beginning to develop, your body adapting to the new reality of constant motion. Night at sea reveals wonders you never imagined. As darkness falls, the stars emerge with a brilliance and clarity unknown in the city. They reflect in the water around the ship, creating the dreamlike impression of sailing through the heavens itself. The air cools considerably, and you wrap yourself in a woolen cloak as you stand at the rail, mesmerized by the gentle phosphorescence that occasionally glimmers in the ship's wake. Days blend into one another as you settle into the rhythm of life at sea. You learn the routines of the ship. When meals are served, simple fare of dried meat, fruit, and hardtack. When the watch changes, how the sailors navigate by the stars and sun. Sinbad proves to be not just a merchant, but a natural teacher, explaining aspects of seafaring that would otherwise remain mysteries. Under his guidance, you begin to appreciate the complex dance of wind, current, and human skill that propels you toward distant shores. The sailors initially reserved around the merchants gradually warm to your curious questions and genuine interest in their craft. In the evenings when work is done and the ship sails under the watchful eyes of the night crew, stories are shared around a small, carefully monitored fire in a metal brazier. Tales of distant lands, strange creatures, and miraculous escapes from danger fill your ears and dreams. You record as many as you can in your journal, the pages gradually filling with both these stories and your own observations. Weeks pass in this manner, the ship making occasional stops at small ports along the Arabian coast to trade or replenish supplies. Each brief landfall offers new sights, sounds, and tastes, unfamiliar spices, different styles of dress, languages you've never heard before. You absorb these experiences like a sponge, your world expanding with each encounter. It is during a particularly hot afternoon, when the sea lies as smooth as polished glass and the sails hang limp in the still air, that the lookout's cry breaks the drowsy silence. Land ho! Strange island to starboard. The announcement sends a ripple of interest through everyone on board. After days of seeing nothing but water in every direction, the prospect of solid ground holds immense appeal. You join others at the rail, straining to see this welcome interruption to the monotony of the seascape. In the distance, a low green island rises just barely above the water's surface. Unlike the rocky shores you've encountered at previous stops, this island appears lush and inviting, its surface covered in what looks like soft vegetation. As the ship draws nearer, drifting slowly in the absent wind, you can make out no trees or structures, just an expanse of verdant green that promises relief from the confines of the vessel. The captain, after studying the island through a brass spyglass, announces that those who wish may take the small boats to shore while the ship waits for the wind to return. The offer is met with enthusiasm from many of the passengers, yourself included. The prospect of stretching your legs on solid ground, if only for a few hours, is irresistible after weeks of confinement to the ship's limited space. You help lower one of the small boats and join Sinbad and several other merchants in rowing toward the inviting patch of green. As you approach, you notice something curious about the island. Its edges seem unusually smooth, with no rocky shore or breaking waves. The surface appears covered in a fine, velvety moss, rather than the expected grasses or sand. These observations register as mild curiosities rather than warnings, as your boat glides up to the edge of this strange land. When your feet first touch the island, you notice a curious give to the ground, subtle but distinct, as if walking on the taut hide of an enormous drum. The sensation is quickly forgotten as you and your companions explore, your legs rejoicing at the chance to walk without compensating for the pitch and roll of the ship. The sun feels different here somehow, warmer, more direct, and the air carries a strange musky scent you cannot identify. After exploring for a time, your group gathers in a small clearing. One of the merchants, a jovial man from Basra, with a booming laugh, suggests making a fire to prepare a small feast from provisions brought from the ship. Soon a fire crackles merrily, built from driftwood collected along what passes for the island shore. The flames cast dancing shadows as your companions share stories and break bread together. You are just raising a cup of sweet tea to your lips when you feel it, a tremor beneath you, so slight at first you believe it might be imagination. Then comes another, stronger this time, a distinct vibration traveling through the ground and into your bones. Your cup slips from your fingers, the tea creating a small dark stain that seems to disappear almost instantly into the surface beneath you. The trembling intensifies. What began as a subtle vibration transforms into an unmistakable movement, the entire island shifting beneath you. A shout from the direction of the ship draws your attention. You turn to see the crew waving frantically, their voices carrying across the water with sudden clarity. "Come back! Come back immediately! It's no island, it's a whale!" The realization crashes over you like a wave. The strange texture, the unusual warmth, the subtle give of the surface, all explained in an instant of horrifying clarity. You are standing not on land, but on the vast back of a living creature, one that has been sleeping peacefully beneath you and your companions, but now begins to stir. Panic erupts among your group. The fire, which moments ago provided comfort and warmth, has apparently penetrated the thick skin of the whale, rousing it from slumber. Everyone scrambles toward the boats, abandoning possessions in their haste to escape. You run alongside Sinbad, your heart pounding in your chest, your mind struggling to process this impossible situation. The whale's movements grow more violent with each passing second. What was once stable ground now heaves and rolls beneath your feet. You stumble, regain your balance, then stumble again as you make your desperate way toward the nearest boat. The distance seems to stretch impossibly as the whale begins to sink, water already washing over its edges, creating a treacherous, slippery surface. You reach the boat just as a massive shudder runs through the whale. Several merchants are already aboard, reaching out to help others in. Sinbad grasps your wrist with surprising strength, pulling you toward safety. Your feet leave the whale's back, suspended momentarily between the sinking creature and the relative safety of the boat. Then disaster strikes. The whale plunges suddenly, creating a massive swell that capsizes the small boat. You are thrown into the sea, the shock of cold water driving the breath from your lungs. When you surface gasping, the world has transformed into chaos. People thrashing in the water, overturned boats, the massive form of the whale now visible as a dark shadow beneath the surface as it dives deep. In the confusion, you manage to grab onto a piece of driftwood, ironically part of the very fire that caused this catastrophe. You cling to it desperately as you search the churning waters for Sinbad and the others. Some have made it back to the ship. You can see small figures being pulled aboard. Others cling to fragments of the boats or swim toward the vessel with determined strokes. You try to call out, to draw attention to your plight, but your voice is lost in the general commotion. To your horror, you realize the ship's crew is hastily raising sail. A breeze has sprung up, and they are taking advantage of it to move away from the dangerous area where the whale might resurface. You wave frantically, but either you are not seen or they cannot reach you without endangering the ship. Within minutes, the vessel has moved beyond reach, its form growing smaller as it catches the wind. You are left alone, adrift on the vast expanse of the ocean, with only a piece of wood between you and the depths below, the piece of driftwood, once part of the fire that awakened the behemoth, now becomes your entire world. Your arms wrap around it with desperate strength, the rough texture of the wood pressing into your chest and cheek. The salt water laps at your body, sometimes gentle, sometimes violent as the sea's mood shifts throughout the day. Time loses meaning as you drift, the sun arcing slowly across the sky, beating down upon your exposed neck and shoulders until your skin feels tight and hot despite the cooling water. Each wave brings a new negotiation with fate. Some lift you gently, a brief respite as you rise to the crest and can see the empty horizon in all directions. Others come with more force, threatening to separate you from your wooden lifeline. Your muscles ache with the constant tension of holding on, but you dare not relax your grip even for a moment. The taste of salt is constant, on your lips, in your eyes, coating your tongue, when you occasionally, carefully, attempt to moisten your increasingly parched mouth. As the sun begins its descent, casting long golden rays across the water's surface, a new fear emerges. Night at sea with no light, no direction, no hope of being seen. The water which glittered blue under the day's light now darkens to an ominous indigo. The temperature drops perceptibly and your body begins to shiver, a rhythmic trembling that makes maintaining your grip even more challenging. Stars appear one by one, then in clusters until the night sky displays its full magnificent canopy above you. In another circumstance, you might marvel at their clarity, how they seem close enough to touch out here away from the city's haze. Instead, their cold light offers little comfort as darkness envelops you completely. The sounds change at night. The water seems louder somehow, each splash and gurgle magnified by the darkness. Occasionally, something moves beneath the surface nearby, a reminder that you share these waters with countless unseen creatures. Sleep comes in brief, fitful moments, never true rest, but a semi-conscious drifting that mirrors your physical state. Dreams and reality blend. Sometimes you believe yourself back in Baghdad's markets, sometimes aboard the ship, only to be jolted back to your precarious reality by a wave washing over your face or a particularly strong shiver running through your exhausted body. When the first hint of dawn appears, a subtle lightening at the edge of the world, you find yourself whispering prayers of gratitude. You have survived the night. The growing light reveals something else, something that causes your heart to leap despite your exhaustion. A dark line on the horizon, not the temporary height of a wave, but a constant presence. Land. With strength you didn't know you still possessed, you begin to kick your legs, propelling your makeshift raft toward the distant shore. The wood feels different beneath your hands now, no longer just a desperate lifeline, but a vessel of hope. As the sun rises fully, you can make out details of the approaching land, the green of vegetation, the tan of what might be a beach, the vertical lines of what could be trees. The sound reaches you first, the rhythmic rushing of waves breaking against land, perhaps the most beautiful sound you've ever heard. Then comes the scent, so different from the endless salt of the open ocean, earth, vegetation, life. The current seems to cooperate with your desire, drawing you closer until finally, wonderfully, your feet scrape against something solid. The seafloor. With trembling limbs, you release your wooden companion of the last day and night, your fingers stiff and reluctant to uncurl from their life-saving grip. You wade through the shallows, each step a monumental effort, as your body remembers how to move without the constant motion of the waves. When you finally reach dry land, you collapse onto the warm sand, pressing your face against its rough, solid reality. For long moments, you simply lie there, feeling the blessed stillness of the earth beneath you, listening to the sound of your own breathing mingled with the gentle lapping of waves against the shore. Eventually, the demands of your body, thirst, hunger, the need for shelter from the increasingly hot sun, force you to move. You sit up slowly, taking in your surroundings with more attention. The island, a real island this time you think with a touch of grim humor, appears to be of moderate size, with a beach giving way to lush vegetation further inland. Tall palms sway in the gentle breeze, their fronds creating a soothing rustling sound that seems to welcome you. Your first priority is water. With the sun's guidance, you move inland, your legs still unsteady but growing stronger with each step. The terrain gradually rises, and you follow what appears to be a natural path through increasingly dense vegetation. The air here is thick with humidity and alive with sounds, the buzz of insects, the calls of birds unseen in the canopy above, the occasional rustle of something moving through the underbrush. After what feels like hours but is perhaps only one, you detect a new sound. The musical trickle of running water. Following this most precious of sounds, you discover a small stream cutting through the forest floor, its water clear and cool. You approach cautiously, remembering tales of dangerous water sources in foreign lands. But your thirst eventually overcomes caution. Kneeling at the stream's edge, you cup your hands and bring the water to your lips. It tastes sweeter than the finest wine ever served in Baghdad, and you drink deeply, feeling life returning to your depleted body. With your most urgent need addressed, you turn your attention to food and shelter. The island provides both with surprising generosity. You discover fruit trees bearing unfamiliar but edible offerings. Sweet, pulpy fruits with thin skins that burst with juice when bitten. Near the stream, you find a natural hollow beneath an overhanging rock that will serve as shelter for the night. Using large leaves and branches, you create a simple bed that feels luxurious after your ordeal at sea. As evening approaches, you build a small fire near the entrance to your shelter, the flames providing both warmth against the cooling air and a sense of security in this unknown place. The firelight casts dancing shadows on the rock behind you as you sit, watching darkness claim the forest. The stars appear once more, but tonight they seem benevolent companions rather than cold, distant observers of your plight. Sleep comes quickly and deeply. your exhausted body surrendering to rest now that basic safety has been secured. You dream of nothing, your mind as still as your body in the profound relief of survival. Dawn wakes you with dappled sunlight filtering through the canopy and the chorus of birds greeting the new day. You emerge from your shelter feeling renewed, the desperate struggle of the past days already beginning to take on the quality of a distant memory rather than an immediate reality. After drinking from the stream and breaking your fast with more of the sweet fruit, you decide to explore the island more thoroughly, hoping to discover signs of habitation or at least a better understanding of your temporary home. Your exploration takes you higher up the gentle slope of the island. As you climb, the vegetation thins somewhat, allowing glimpses of the surrounding ocean, a vast blue expanse that both awes and intimidates with its immensity. From this vantage point, you can see the curve of the island shore, the white line of surf breaking against it, and the uninterrupted horizon beyond. No ships, no sails, no sign of human presence besides yourself. The realization that rescue might be long in coming settles over you not as panic, but as a calm acceptance. You have survived the worst already. Now you must simply continue to survive until fortune or fate intervenes. With this thought in mind, you continue your exploration, determined to make the most of what the island offers. As you crest a small rise, you come upon an unexpected sight, a broad meadow where several horses graze peacefully. The animals, sleek and well-groomed, show no sign of being wild. Their presence can only mean one thing: human habitation. Your heart quickens at the implication, hope rising within you like a tide. You approach the horses carefully, not wishing to startle them. They regard you with mild curiosity, but no fear, further evidence of their domestication. As you draw nearer, you notice something else. Each animal is tethered to a stake driven into the ground, confirming that they have been placed here deliberately. A sound behind you causes you to turn quickly. A man stands at the edge of the meadow, watching you with an expression of surprise that must mirror your own. He is dressed in the manner of a groom or stable hand, with practical clothing and a weathered face that speaks of a life spent outdoors. For a moment neither of you speaks, the unexpected encounter leaving you both momentarily speechless. Then the man calls out in a language you recognize as similar to your own, though with an accent you cannot place. His words are cautious but not hostile, asking who you are and how you came to be on the island. In halting phrases, you explain your situation: the merchant voyage, the whale mistaken for an island, your miraculous survival, and washing ashore. As you speak, the man's expression shifts from wariness to sympathy. He introduces himself as a groom in service to Mihrage, the king of this island, explaining that he and his companions come here annually to tend the royal horses in these fertile pastures. The groom invites you to accompany him to their camp, where you can rest properly and share a meal with his companions. The prospect of human company and prepared food is too welcome to refuse, and you follow him across the meadow toward a cluster of simple structures visible at its far edge. The camp consists of several sturdy tents arranged around a central fire pit, where a cooking fire already burns low. Several other men, dressed similarly to your guide, look up in surprise as you approach. Your story is shared again, this time met with expressions of amazement and offers of hospitality. You are given a place by the fire, a bowl of hearty stew, and a cup of strong, sweet tea that warms you from within. As you eat, the grooms explain more about the island and their purpose here. The horses belong to King Mihraj, whose realm includes this and several neighboring islands. Each year, the finest mares are brought here to graze on the special grasses that grow in these meadows, said to produce the strongest, fastest foals. The grooms remain with them for several months before returning to the main island where the king's palace stands. Fortune has smiled upon you, they tell you, for they are due to return to the capital in just 3 days' time. You are welcome to accompany them, and they are certain the king will receive you kindly, as he is known for his generosity toward travelers, especially those who have survived such extraordinary circumstances. The next 3 days pass in a pleasant routine. You help the grooms with their tasks, learning about the care of the royal horses, and sharing stories of Baghdad and your journey. Your strength returns rapidly with regular meals and restful nights. By the time the day of departure arrives, you feel almost yourself again, though the experience has left its mark on you in ways both visible, your skin darkened by sun, your hands calloused from your ordeal, and invisible in a new appreciation for the precariousness and preciousness of life. The journey to the main island takes less than a day, the horses loaded onto a sturdy boat with practiced efficiency. As you approach the capital, you are struck by its beauty. White buildings rising in tiers from the harbor, their domes and minarets gleaming in the sunlight. Gardens of impossible greenness, visible even from the water. The harbor itself bustles with activity, ships of various sizes and designs coming and going in a dance of commerce that reminds you poignantly of your lost vessel and companions. Upon landing, the chief groom insists on personally escorting you to the palace, explaining your situation to the guards who control access to the royal residence. Your appearance, still bearing the marks of your ordeal despite the groom's generosity with their limited supplies, lends credence to your extraordinary tale, and you are admitted to the palace with surprising ease. The interior of the royal residence exceeds even its impressive exterior. Courtyards with fountains lead to halls adorned with intricate mosaics and delicate carvings. The air is perfumed with incense and cooled by clever architectural design that channels breezes through the structure. Servants move quietly about their duties, their rich livery indicating the wealth and status of their master. You are led to an antechamber where you are asked to wait while the king is informed of your arrival. The room is furnished with cushioned benches and low tables bearing refreshments, fruits, sweetmeats, and cool drinks that you sample gratefully. The wait is not long before a court official arrives to escort you to the king's audience chamber. King Mihraj sits upon a raised dais surrounded by advisors and courtiers. He is a man of middle years with intelligent eyes and a beard streaked with silver. His robes are rich but not ostentatious, and he wears his authority with the ease of one born to it. As you approach and make the appropriate obeisance, you sense a genuine curiosity in his gaze. At the king's invitation, you recount your story once more, beginning with your departure from Baghdad and ending with your rescue by the royal grooms. You speak of Sinbad and the other merchants, of the whale mistaken for an island, of your miraculous survival at sea. The court listens in rapt silence, and when you finish, the king himself expresses amazement at your tale. Truly, he says, his voice carrying easily through the chamber, Allah protects those he favors. Your survival is nothing short of miraculous, and you shall be welcome in our realm for as long as you wish to remain. The king's generosity extends beyond mere words. You are provided with quarters in the section of the palace reserved for honored guests, given new clothing suitable to your status as a merchant, and offered a small stipend to meet your needs while you determine your next steps. The royal physicians attend to the lingering effects of your ordeal, the rope-burned palms, the salt-cracked lips, the deep fatigue that still occasionally overtakes you despite your recovery. In the days that follow, you begin to explore the capital, seeking out the merchant quarter, where traders from distant lands gather to conduct business. Here, you hope to find news of ships bound for Baghdad, or at least information about your lost companions. The marketplace reminds you of home, though the goods on display reflect the island's position on different trade routes. Pearls of extraordinary size and luster, exotic woods carved into intricate shapes, spices you've never encountered before. You make a habit of speaking with newly arrived merchants, particularly those whose vessels might have crossed paths with your ill-fated ship. Weeks pass with no news, and you begin to accept that you may be the sole survivor of the whale incident. This knowledge sits heavily upon you, especially thoughts of Sinbad, whose friendship, brief though it was, had become important to you. To occupy yourself and begin rebuilding your fortunes, you start engaging in small trading ventures within the capital, using your knowledge of goods and markets to identify opportunities. The stipend provided by the king serves as your initial capital, and you are careful to honor his generosity by making wise investments. Your natural aptitude for commerce serves you well, and gradually your circumstances improve from dependent guest to self-sufficient resident. One particularly hot afternoon, seeking respite from the sun, you take shelter in the shade of a warehouse near the harbor. As you sip water from a clay cup, your attention is drawn to a ship being unloaded at a nearby dock. Something about the vessel seems familiar, the particular curve of its hull, the distinctive figurehead at its prow. You move closer, curiosity piqued, and begin to examine the cargo being transferred to the dock. Your heart nearly stops when you notice your own mark on several bales of goods, the distinctive symbol you used to identify your merchandise on the ill-fated voyage. These are your goods, somehow recovered or salvaged, now being unloaded in this distant port. You approach the ship's captain, a weathered man with a scar running along his jawline, and inquire about the marked bales. The captain regards you with initial suspicion that gives way to astonishment as you identify yourself and explain your connection to the goods. He tells you that these items were recovered from your original ship, which did not sink as you had feared. After the whale incident, the vessel had continued its voyage, the captain believing all those left behind had perished. The goods belonging to lost merchants were being sold at various ports to be remitted to their families if they could be located. There was another merchant, you ask, your voice tight with hope and dread. Sinbad of Baghdad, do you have news of him? The captain's expression grows solemn. We believed all who were on the whale's back were lost to the sea. If this Sinbad was among them, I have no news that would bring you comfort. Though the confirmation of your friend's probable fate brings sorrow, the discovery of your goods represents an unexpected boon. After establishing your identity to the captain's satisfaction, your detailed knowledge of the goods' content serving as proof, Arrangements are made to transfer ownership back to you. Suddenly, you find yourself in possession of valuable merchandise that can significantly advance your rebuilding efforts. With your reclaimed goods and the profits from your local trading, you establish yourself more formally in the merchant community of King Mirage's capital. You rent a small warehouse near the harbor and living quarters in a respectable district of the city. Your days fall into a pleasant routine of business dealings, meals shared with new acquaintances, and occasional visits to the palace where the king continues to show interest in your welfare. Time passes, the seasons change, and you find yourself increasingly at home in this once foreign place. You learn the local language fluently, adopt elements of the local dress and customs, and develop a network of business associates and friends. The memory of your ordeal at sea fades somewhat, though you never lose your respect for the ocean's power and mystery. It is during this period of settled prosperity that fate intervenes once more in your life. Word reaches the harbor of an unusual vessel arriving from distant shores, a ship of design unfamiliar to the local sailors but immediately recognizable to you. It is a trading vessel from Baghdad, the first you have seen since washing up on these shores more than a year ago. You hurry to the harbor, hope rising within you at the prospect of news from home, and perhaps even passage back to Baghdad. The ship has just docked, its crew busy with the organized chaos of arrival. You approach, searching for the captain among the figures moving about the deck and dock. When you find him, the conversation begins with routine inquiries about the journey and cargo, but quickly turns to more personal matters. Yes, the captain is familiar with Baghdad's merchant community. Yes, he can carry messages or even passengers on his return voyage. And yes, he has heard the name Sinbad. In fact, he knows him personally. But Sinbad is dead, you say, confusion evident in your voice. Lost at sea when a whale we mistook for an island submerged, taking him and others with it. The captain laughs, a sound of genuine amusement rather than mockery. The Sinbad I know has told that fairy tale many times, always as the survivor, never the lost. If you speak of the same man, a merchant of Baghdad, tall with a beard now streaked with grey, then I assure you he lives and prospers. The revelation staggers you. Sinbad alive, the friend you had mourned, the companion you had given up for lost, still walking the streets of Baghdad. The captain, seeing your emotion, invites you aboard his vessel to speak more privately. There, over cups of strong tea, he confirms what seems impossible. Sinbad survived the whale incident just as you did, eventually making his way back to Baghdad, where he has become known for telling the tale of his adventure, always emphasizing his miraculous escape and survival. It seems, the captain says with a smile, that you and he have more in common than you knew. Both lost, both survived, both forever changed by the experience. The news settles over you like a warm cloak, bringing comfort and a sense of completion to a chapter of your life you had thought forever unresolved. In that moment, you make a decision that has been forming unconsciously for some time. You will return to Baghdad on this very ship, bringing your accumulated wealth and experience back to where your journey began. The preparations for departure occupy the next several weeks. You liquidate your holdings, convert your wealth to portable forms, and pay a visit to King Mihraj to express your gratitude for his hospitality and to bid him farewell. The king, true to his generous nature, presents you with parting gifts, rare spices, fine fabrics, and a small chest of pearls harvested from the waters surrounding his realm. May your journey home be safer than the one that brought you to us, he says as you take your leave, his blessing following you as you make your way to the waiting ship. The return voyage to Baghdad is mercifully uneventful, the sea showing its benevolent aspect rather than its terrible power. You spend much of the journey in reflection, considering how profoundly your life has been altered by what began as a simple trading venture. The experience has taught you much about survival, about the precariousness of human existence, about the capacity for renewal and adaptation that lies within. As the ship navigates the familiar waters leading to Balsora, and then as you join a caravan for the final leg to Baghdad, anticipation builds within you. The city, when it finally appears on the horizon, seems both utterly familiar and strangely new, as if you are seeing it through changed eyes, which, in truth, you are. Your return causes a stir among those who had given you up for dead. Former associates greet you with amazement, neighbors and distant relatives appear to welcome you home, and perhaps to assess what advantage might be gained from your unexpected return. Through these reunions, you learn that Sinbad has indeed returned, and has established himself once more as a prominent merchant, his home in one of the city's finest districts. On a warm evening, when the heat of the day has begun to dissipate and the streets fill with people enjoying the cooler air, you make your way to the address you have been given. The house is impressive, large and well appointed, with a courtyard visible through the open gate where a fountain plays musically. You approach the entrance where a servant greets you with polite inquiry as to your business. Tell your master, you say, your voice steady despite the emotion welling within you, that a fellow survivor of the whale has come to share tales of the sea. You are shown to a comfortable antechamber and asked to wait. The minutes stretch, filled with memories of your last sight of Sinbad, reaching for your hand as chaos erupted around you, the whale descending into the depths. Then footsteps approach, the door opens, and there he stands, older perhaps, with more gray in his beard than you remember, but unmistakably the same man who began that fateful journey with you so long ago. For a moment, neither of you speaks. Then Sinbad steps forward, his eyes wide with recognition and disbelief. "It cannot be," he says, his voice barely above a whisper. "You were lost. I saw the sea take you." "And I you," you reply, emotion making your voice rough. It seems the sea gives back what it takes if one is fortunate enough. The formal distance of reunion dissolves in an instant as Sinbad embraces you, the shared experience of survival creating a bond that transcends the years of separation. You are led into the main hall, where a meal is already in progress, Sinbad hosting friends and associates as has become his custom. A place is made for you at his right hand, and as the evening progresses, the tale of your parallel journeys unfolds for the assembled guests. Sinbad, it transpires, clung to a different piece of wreckage from the small boat, eventually being picked up by a passing vessel. His journey home followed a different path than yours, but was no less remarkable. As you share your experiences, the island of King Miraj, your gradual rebuilding of fortune, the miraculous discovery of your original goods, you realize that your story and his are two halves of a whole, separate threads of the same tapestry. As the night deepens and guests begin to take their leave, Sinbad draws you aside to a quiet corner of the courtyard. The fountain's gentle music provides privacy for your conversation, as he makes an unexpected proposal. "I have been considering another voyage," he says, his eyes alight with the same spirit of adventure you remember. "The sea took much from us, but it also gave us stories few can claim and wisdom fewer still possess. Would you consider joining me once more? Not immediately. Rest, re-establish yourself here first. But perhaps when the season turns again." The question hangs in the air between you, fraught with memory and possibility. The sensible answer would be refusal. You have both cheated death once, and tempting fate again seems foolhardy. Yet as you look at Sinbad, you recognize in him the same restlessness that has begun to stir in your own heart, a hunger for horizons that no amount of comfort or security can fully satisfy. "I will consider it," you reply, knowing even as you speak that the sea has claimed not just a portion of your past, but a piece of your future as well. When the season turns, we will speak of it again. The night air carries the scent of jasmine as you take your leave, making your way through the now quiet streets toward your own lodgings. Above, the stars shine with the same brilliance they showed on that terrible night when you floated alone on the vast ocean, though now they seem to speak not of isolation, but of infinite possibility. The journey continues as all journeys must, with an ending that contains within it the seeds of a new beginning. The first voyage has concluded, but the horizon beckons still, promising further adventures for those with the courage to set sail once more upon the unpredictable waters of fate.